the investor I originally met that screwed me over, his last words to me were, "You're never going to make it without my money." And I think like 6 years later, I ended up buying a house in the community he lives in. I rolled in with my Lambo. There was an HOA meeting. I pulled up. He saw me. His jaw dropped. It was the best feeling.
Hey, you guys, what's up? We just finished Ask Alex number 34, and this webinar was fire. Garri has flipped over 350 homes in Los Angeles, and this guy is continuing to take them down. Alex, what do you think are some of the biggest takeaways that make him continue to find these deals?
Wow, wasn't that an amazing webinar, Will? So I think his secret is that $1 million question that he asks on every single deal. So if you guys want to know that question, make sure you check out the webinar. Let's go. Aloha, my deal makers from San Antonio, Texas. How's everybody doing? I'm excited about this. Yeah, I'm enjoying San Antonio. It's only been one day and I'm already seeing a lot of potential here, guys. We're gonna have Garri on today, you guys. If you guys don't know him, he's a big investor from LA. But yeah, like I was saying, we're gonna get Garri in today, and he's a big investor, guys. He's been investing now. Actually, I don't remember exactly how long, but I know it's been at least 7 years, 6, 7 years. What's up, Kamohe? What's up, buddy?
I'm actually really excited to hear from Garri today, Alex. I know a lot of times in the webinar, we've brought in some folks from out of LA, but this guy is a monster out here in LA. He is doing a lot of deals, a lot of big time deals. And so this should be a really fun webinar for everybody today to kind of learn from somebody who's, again, doing deals actively here in LA and is crushing it. So
yeah, because as so many people say that these, markets, you can't do deals, or there is no deals, or there's so much competition, it's harder to do deals. His story is going to prove that, just like my story is proving that, and that's why we're always sharing this with the tribe, because it's just a reminder that there are deals in every single market, right, Will?
Everywhere you look. Your trip this last week, which I know you're going to dive into a little bit here on the webinar. Obviously you found out, hey, there's deals in other cities, other states, red states, blue states, you name it. There's opportunity everywhere you go and knock. It's just, are you able to find it, right?
Yeah, exactly. In every single state, every single city, there are deals to be had. It just, the real factor really comes down to, are you willing to put into work? Are you getting around the right people? And are you learning enough to be able to take the purposeful action it takes to lock up deals on a regular basis? So yeah, man, let's jump in. I'm excited to interview him and also continue to share some value to the tribe.
Cool. So guys, the drill here. If it's your first time in the webinar, go ahead and use the chat feature down below. We'd love to, just get a little bit of an idea of who we have in the webinar. I see a lot of our usual faces. I see Lissy's and Camo High and Ed. And again, we appreciate all the regulars that are coming back. If it's your first time, let us know who you are. Let us know what market you're investing in. And most importantly, where we can connect with you outside of the webinar today. So if you're on Instagram, let us know your handle, and that way we can kind of connect and stay in touch with the tribe outside of these meetings. So if you guys have any questions today during the webinar, I'd like to also invite you to use the Q&A feature. Garri is a legendary investor out here in LA, and he's going to be answering some questions for us. So again, if you have any questions directly for Garri or Alex, go ahead and use that Q&A feature today, and we will try and get those answered during the webinar.
Yeah, you guys, and I want to just add to that, Will. The reason we formed this community, we formed this webinar, is because we wanted a place for everybody to come in with that like mind, come in with that, that mindset of, hey, let me see how I can connect with other people. And it's so important for you to connect with other people in your market and other markets, because you never know how you can help each other. And I'm a big proponent of that, because I've seen it in my business. I've seen it with deals. It's so important because there are a lot of people out there taking action that have already gone through the struggles that you've gone through, that can help you along the way. And Garri's an example of that too. And that's why I brought him in, because he's, at a much higher level than I am. And there's been a couple of times that I've had to, lean on him, ask him questions. And so that's been very important. And it doesn't matter if people are in a different city. You never know how you're going to be able to help that person or how they'll be able to help you. And then also, when you understand other people's story and what they're working on, these are other connections that you're making. And that's the way the brain works, you guys. It gets all this information, and then it's built to make connections. And that's with information, and that's with relationships. So just keep that in mind, you guys. It doesn't matter where you're from, but you need to be, kind of constantly networking, constantly taking action, so that way you can earn the right to ask questions, because you're asking questions based on a lot of action that you're taking.
So before we bring on our guest, Alex, I would love for you to give a real quick update. I know you've been just absolutely crushing it and been on a big trip here. Give us a quick snapshot. Like, what have you been doing this last week?
Yeah, so last week when we last spoke to you guys on last week's webinar, I was still in Phoenix, in Scottsdale. Left there that evening and landed, the following day I left and landed in South Florida, in Miami. Spent some time there, got to know a bunch of other investors and also ones that I already knew from previous connections. I've done a couple of wholesale conferences, a couple of flipping conferences out there in South Florida. And so I got to reconnect with people that I already knew, but face-to-face time is super valuable. And then after South Florida, last night I flew into San Antonio. And for the reason it is, you guys, is because now more than anything, I'm trying to search for understanding of these markets, because I have a different lens that I did in the past. My business is, our business is doing well. So we need to start figuring out some tax strategy and, just cash flowing properties, and properties that meet that criteria are really not that easy to find in California and Hawaii. So I'm looking at these three markets and, I've been basically getting a crash course in Phoenix, in South Florida, and San Antonio now, a crash course from people taking action, from people doing deals. And I mean, from all levels, like from people doing dozens and dozens and dozens of deals to people that are just done a couple of deals that are, in the coaching program with us in the Ryan Pineda. So it's one of those things that I'm just getting understanding, right? I'm learning from these people that are doing it. I'm not coming with an agenda like, hey, I'm gonna come flip houses in San Antonio, or hey, I'm gonna buy, big buildings in South Florida. No, it's just like, hey, what are you up to? This is what I'm up to. How can I help you? How can, potentially you help me? And that's where I'm coming from. And I think if people appreciate that, because I'm investing time, money to come out here and, spend time with these people, take them out to lunch, take them out to dinner, spend some quality time with them. And then, I've been having some fun as well. Right, had some fun in Miami. Went out to a couple of clubs. I haven't been to a nightclub with when it's packed, for a really long time. So it's pretty refreshing. But yeah, man. So now I'm in San Antonio, and I'm gonna be here till Sunday, checking things out here.
So Alex, we had a great question come in, and I'd love for you to just kind of give us a one quick hitter. This is from Fernando, asking you, what was the biggest lesson you took away from the multifamily conference you went to? Great question.
That's a great question.
And if you need to, you can save it till the end. But if you have it now, just let us know, what was the biggest takeaway?
I think the biggest takeaway, and it's pretty obvious, is that the multifamily space and investing is much different than single family, and what it takes to buy property, multifamily, especially units once you're over 50 units, is predominantly dominated by brokers. And so your acquisitions strategies are revolved around building strong connections with these big hitting brokers, compared to like the single family space, where you can do it off market, and you can buy from wholesalers, and you can do other stuff. So although I had heard it before, they had this multifamily broker panel, and they were all just talking about their pet peeves of dealing with buyers and what it takes for them to accept an offer under today's market. And so I think it's just, how important it is to build relationships with a strong multifamily brokers, if that's where you desire to go, because otherwise it'll be very difficult for you to get deals in that space.
Big hit there. I love that, Alex. Quick here, Alex, if you don't mind just going over to me in the panelist group and changing me over to the host. We'll go ahead and get this thing started, guys. I did just want to go ahead and shout out a couple people. I see Brandon Illick all the way from Palmdale. I see Nick Stathopoulos all the way from Chicagoland. We're seeing Melissa from the Bay Area, Edgar from LA, Allison from New York City, Kyle out in Phoenix. Guys, everybody here today is here to hear from Garri, and we're going to go ahead and welcome our guy Garri to the screen right now. As Alex mentioned, the reason we decided to bring this dude on is A, he's a monster out here in LA. B, he's somebody that Alex has personally reached out and sought guidance from in the past. And C, the dude is just an absolute, clear cut as can be, a real estate investor here in LA. The dude has done over 350 deals. And, again, I'm really excited to bring Garri onto the screen here. This guy is now running a multi-million-dollar real estate business here in LA. And he is now here to share with us and kind of give us a couple of those little kind of tips and tricks that have gotten him to where he is today. So again, a warm welcome for Garri. We're excited to have you on here today.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Let's get it.
So Garri, we'll go ahead and get you on here in just a second. And if you're able to get the, there we go. We got screen on. We can see him. There he is. There's the investor.
I'm like, who are these guys talking about? Is he talking about me? I appreciate you guys. Thank you. I'm humble, accepting the kind words. Thank you.
Well, again, man, we're really excited to have you on here. What I'd love to do is if you can kind of just get things started for us, Garri. I know we gave a kind of a brief intro on you, but you know it better than anybody else. What's your story? What's your why? Kind of give everybody in the room, there's over 40 people here today ready to learn from you today. So kind of give people a brief insight, like what kind of got you to where you are.
Sure. Look, I'll share you guys my story. If your why isn't giving you goosebumps, you need a new why, right? Your why has to be so deep where it's giving you goosebumps. Mine was my family. I was between jobs. Literally within a year, I probably had like 6 different jobs. And these jobs were jobs I really didn't like, right? They were just mortgages, selling cars. And I was watching a lot of Flip or Flop, a lot of that show. And one day it was like 3 a.m. I couldn't go to sleep. I was like, man, I really want to get into flipping houses. I had a mortgage company in the past, so I had mortgage background. And a lot of it was just common sense for me because I had the mortgage background. And it was 3 a.m. I couldn't go to sleep. I was on Redfin. I found a house near where I used to live, Burbank. And I reached out to the agent. I said, I'm interested in buying your house. It was a short sale. She said, I have 27 offers. I said, well, whatever you do, can you please put me on number 1? She said, I can't. I already have an offer submitted. I said, look, whatever you do, this is going to change my life. It's going to change my family's life. Please help me out. I didn't have a dollar to my name. I was in debt for like 10 grand. I don't know, just the confidence, just this inner peace in me that I was going to do this deal. 2 weeks later, she calls me. She says, hey, the deal is yours. Do you want it? I said, absolutely. I said, where do we need to be? She said, 410, it's yours. I said, no problem. I made some calls. I knew some people with money. One of the guys jumped on it. I became a partner with them. We went 3 ways, me, the investor, and the contractor. Long story short, fast forward, they sold the house, $160,000 profit. I'm expecting a check for a big amount, and they don't pay me. I was like, oh shit, here you go. I've heard stories like this. After renegotiating, I ended up getting like $16,000. I was like, whatever, it's all good, it's a learning lesson I learned. But I really got good at finding deals, just calling realtors and building relationships. So one of the takeaways I learned really early on in my career is building strong, deep-rooted relationships. Not transactional relationships, but like real relationships. Get to know the person, who they are, their family, right? Get to know who their kids are, their birthdays. On their birthdays, call them, text them, take them out to lunch, dinner, all that stuff. So I did all that. And then I got introduced to another investor, got screwed over with him on 2 deals. The last deal I got screwed over is I was making phone calls while working at a mortgage company, of all the short sales that were coming on the market. I was calling to get their loan business, but I was also calling to get a way to buy their houses. So this investor I was working with, he's a local agent, also an investor in Glendale. And our last deal, I called the agent. I said, "Hey, I'm interested in buying this house. What can we do? You know, can you please put me on?" He said, "This house is already sold." My next question, if I didn't ask them this last question, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. The question I asked him is, "Do you have anything else?" That question changed my life. Can
That
you guys
is
hear me?
that is such an epic question, Garri. Do you have any,
Sorry.
like, wow,
Well, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
you can't hear me at all? Hello, hello? You can't hear me? Hello, Garri, you there? Now you can hear me?
Okay. So that question I asked changed my life, literally changed my life. And I'll tell you what happened. I ended up getting that deal because of that question I asked. My business partner, which is Sergio now, was the realtor that gave me that deal. I promised him the realist, but that investor never gave him the realist. And it, it burned my bridge. However, I had an open conversation with Sergio. I said, "Hey, look, I got screwed over. I made 10 grand on the deal. I was supposed to make 20. I'll give you half of it." He said, "It's cool, man. Don't worry about it. It's yours." We were having sushi together. It's like, why don't we just do this together? Our first month, we ended up buying like 3 houses. The investor I originally met that screwed me over, his last words to me were, "You're never going to make it without my money." And I think like 6 years later, I ended up buying a house in the community he lives in. I rolled in with my Lambo. There was an HOA meeting. I pulled up. He saw me. His jaw dropped. It was the best feeling. Uh, yeah, it was the best feeling. For whatever reason, I can't hear you guys. Let me take off my Bluetooth.
That's that is an epic story, Garri. And you know, again, I think a lot of
Sorry.
people here are going to resonate with that because, you know, some people in here have been ripped off by other investors as well. Some people have gone through the ringer, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat saying, "Hey man, like I recognize what you're saying." So first of all, kudos to you for continuing to go, right? And not letting that one deal that burns you, you know, stop you from it. But would love to kind of get some insight. I know you mentioned that you kind of found this partner, right? And you went through a couple of partners to get there. So what was it about Sergio that kind of stood out to you? And obviously, you know, a sushi dinner and you guys kind of, you know, deciding, hey, we could do this. But what were some of those maybe key, you know, ingredients that made this seem like the right partner for you? Because I know a lot of people in the webinar right now are wondering, hey, should I do this alone? Should I partner up? So I think that's a really relatable question.
You know, you get to know someone by the way he treats others, and doesn't have to even be business, right? I got to know his family, how he treated his family. Married guy, has 3 kids. So I knew he was stable, right? Had a nice house. He had a good foundation, came from a good family. So I knew his track record was clean. But the question that changed my life that I asked him, when we first did our first deal together, literally on a handshake, he put $20,000 in my bank account. On a handshake. That to me was, because everyone knows who they are, right? We don't know who the person in front of us is. But when the person in front of you does something like that, you already know he's solid.
Wow.
So
Wow. That's awesome.
I was like, I'm good, you know, we are good. I don't need no contracts. We're good, man. We started buying houses together, met some amazing contacts. Met one of my favorite realtors that sends us amazing deals. Alex, you might even know him, Larry Bobshaw.
Yeah, I wish I had a relationship with that guy. He don't ever take my offers.
Yo, I've made, no joke, with Larry, I've made over $1 million.
I believe it. He's a
Just with
monster agent.
One of my hotel deals where I bought, I sold as is, I made 300,000. This recent one I just bought like a month ago, or sold a month ago, hotel deal, I made 160,000.
So I want to
And-
talk on that a little bit, Garri. So I know you mentioned, right, that you had a kind of a mortgage business before this, and you were watching Flip or Flop at 3 a.m., right? Did you have any other real estate experience, or was it just, hey man, I saw a house, I'm going with my intuition, and I'm gonna figure it out on the way?
Yeah, like a lot of it was, sometimes we're our own enemy, right? We're our own, like, we start talking to ourselves. We get us out of our own deals by just talking. No, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know. All this like self-sabotage talk starts coming in. What I knew is like, all right, houses in the area, we got to keep this business simple. A lot of guys complicate it. I knew houses in the area are selling for 600,000. You see comps. You don't need MLS if you don't have it. Go on Redfin. You'll see what houses are selling for. Houses were selling in the $650,000, $700,000 range. We're picking this thing up at 410. I mean, you don't have to be an engineer or a rocket scientist to know that's a good deal. And it was a good deal.
Bad money rate. You could get a bad contractor. You could have 3 or 4 things go wrong there, and you're still gonna have a good deal, right?
You'll still be good. You'll still be good.
And I'm curious about early on, Garri, what was that division of labor like between you and Sergio? Because he's a broker and you were you more of the deal getter side and he was kind of helping with the execution, or what did that look like at the beginning?
Well, Sergio's a killer, man. He gets amazing deals himself. So we were able to, so I'll tell you Sergio's strength. Sergio's strength, he's a broker. He also has an amazing background on construction. He knows how to build houses. And prior to him doing the real estate stuff, Sergio was a inspector. So Sergio has that inspection background. He knows what to see, what to look for. So it helped us out a lot. And he knew like what things cost, you know, obviously the market here, a lot of the workers are Hispanic, he speaks Spanish. So it's easier for him to deal with, you know, the workers. They're not going to try to like one up him or try to, you know, take advantage of us. And his father-in-law is a contractor. So we had a lot of context through him. And then I was like the perfect piece. I came in and I brought more deals to the table. I brought a team on and we created something very special through our nonprofit that we were able to get a lot of deals through that. And well, you know, now we're focusing on some other stuff, but I don't know if I asked your question, Alex.
No, yeah, I think that's the issue that a lot of people go through at the beginning. Like, should I partner up or not partner up? Will was talking about that, but I think when there's a clear complement with each other, and like you said earlier, like you have values that are aligned, and then it allows you to like build off of that because you're both coming from a place of strength and it's, you know, a solid foundation. Both solid dudes, you know, both, you know, want something, you know, greater for their lives, and then you have complementary skill sets that allow you to do that a lot more efficiently than just like, okay, you know how to get deals, I know how to get deals. Okay, well, who's going to handle the construction then? You know, and then just, I think, you know, it's not not everybody should have a partner, but if you are going to have a partner, then I think it needs to start on that foundation, like you did.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We had the same vision. We had the same goal, and it was a perfect, like literally this guy was a stranger. That one simple question I asked, he's one of my best friends now.
That's awesome.
We talk about that often, guys, right? The roles and goals, and you know, Garri, you called it the vision and the roles. So I think that's very similar, right? As long as you kind of have that understanding, hey, this is what I do good, this is the skills that you do good. How can we make that into something valuable for both of us? So I love that. I also had one other question from what you mentioned, and I know this is going to be a real easy one, but why do you ask, do you have anything else?
Because a lot of times, man, people have deals that they're not putting on the market yet, right? They're talking to someone, they want to back into their buyer, you know. You know, if you don't ask, you don't eat. You got to
Love
ask to eat.
Love that, right? If you don't ask for the referral, you're never going to get the referral. So just by asking, you never know what other deals that agent, that wholesaler, that seller might have in their pipeline that they're also looking to get rid of. So again, I think that's a huge thing, and something that we, regularly do on our end is make sure that we're asking these agents, hey, we took this deal down with you. What else do you have that we should probably take a look at, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So Garri, we have a couple of questions that kind of came in before the webinar. One of them I'd love to kind of dive in with you, and it's about where you decided to invest. So I know you were on the couch watching flip or flop, and obviously you lived here in LA and money was a little bit tight for you. You mentioned you got into your first deal with no money. So what now? Like, how do you decide whether to invest locally or out of state? A lot of times we hear that LA is such a hard market, but obviously, like you said, you guys are getting multiple deals a month here. So how do you kind of, justify that, whether to invest here or out of state?
Well, to each their own, right? So for us, it makes sense here. We know the market here. I have the contacts here. Our marketing works here. LA, I always say LA is very different compared to other states. LA clients, a lot of times, you got to massage them a little bit more. You got to spend more time with them, talk to them, go to their house, right? Really get to know them. It's like playing politics, right? But, and we know how to do that. We know how to work the market here. I had a mentor a long time ago. He said, before you plant any other trees in someone else's backyard, plant some in your own backyard. And we were really good at that. So, and the margins here are so huge that I've done flips out of state, by the way. It's not worth it for our time. Like, I did a deal we made like 40 grand, and I did another deal we made like 50 grand. Yeah, those are cool, but I'd rather do deals here where I make 100 grand, 200 grand, So that's why I do deals here.
I know we talk about that too, right? A lot of it has to do with your bandwidth, right? So if you maybe do a deal out of state, that might take a lot more of your time because you have to develop that new list of people you work with, your contacts, your money research, like all those, people that you already have here. So whereas you're now doing a smaller number deal over there, you're actually taking away from the time that you can really focus on what's crushing it, which is your high margin deals out here, right?
Exactly. So I'll tell you, the reason I did deals out of state, I got to a point where it started getting boring for me. We were just doing deals after deals. I'm like, all right, this sounds like a job now, like, right? It wasn't challenging enough. I was like, let me see if I could do deals out of state. And I wanted to just travel. I wanted to be like Alex, just travel. So I did a deal in Ohio. I did a deal in Washington. And for me, my biggest thing is I want to create memories with my friends. So if I could travel to any state with my friends, have fun, make money, build new relationships, experience new memories, right? Experience new things while we're making money, that's fun. But then, I have a family, I have 2 kids. It's hard to do that nowadays. Back then, I was barely married, no kids, so I was able to do a lot of things. Now it's a little harder. So I'm not able to do what I really want to do. And plus, the margins are so huge here, I wouldn't go out of state.
And I know that's something, again, for Alex, we're looking out of state now, but to your point, it's not to do flips, it's to buy, multifamily properties. So it's, we found the same thing, that sure, we could do flips in Arizona, in Texas, in Ohio, but for the 10, 20K profit you're going to make out there, we could just as well easily focus on a deal out here that's going to make a 80K, 6 figures or more, depending on the project, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And Garri, I'm curious about like your standards, because even when you said you did out of state, you made 40, 50 grand, you're like, that's not enough. Did your standards were they always that high for how much money you want to make per deal in SoCal, or did that evolve over like doing more and more deals and you're like, hey, we need to hit this minimum?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, like anything else, right? When you start, you're a baby, right? You get to, you're eating milk, right? Or drinking milk, and then you go to baby food and Gerbers. Now we're at a point where we're eating steak, right? I can't go from eating steak to eating like milk or drinking milk. we're used to X amount. Plus, I have a partner, and you know, after you do the splits, if you do make 100 grand, you're really making 50 grand, right? If you make 50, you're really making 25. So, and sometimes we'll bring in like other investors or other partners. So when you do the splits, you're like really not making much. That's why it just doesn't make sense to go out of state for us.
Gotcha.
No, and Alex and I understand completely. I mean, filet mignons only on our plates, right? So Garri, again, I think that's an incredible, way to look at it. Like, hey, I'm getting bored. I'm going to go out of state. I'm going to look at some other properties. What about when you're here in LA? Like, how do you decide whether you're going to flip a property or whether you're going to hold on to it?
So currently I have 11 projects going on, and they're a mix of everything, right? Some hold, some we don't even know what we're going to do once there's a bunch of equity in it. We're going to try out some burr methods on a few of them. The ones that we are holding, I'm looking into the short-term rentals. So I have one in Palm Springs that we're holding on. We got a freaking amazing deal, bro. We bought that thing for $500,000. We're in a contract for $675. Did a price drop. We got it for $500. It's worth like 1.8 right now. And yeah, we bought that last year during COVID. Perfect timing.
And Garri, I really like what you said there. A piece of that, which was like, look, some of these projects, we don't even know what we're going to do with yet, but we just knew it was a deal and we knew we needed to lock it up, and we'll figure out, hey, do we want to flip this? Do we want to sell this? Do we want to wholesale it? We can kind of figure that out down the line. But first and foremost, get the deal locked up. And then, we always talk about this, right, Alex, is what is our exit strategy? And if we don't have that one key exit strategy, then that's fine if there's other options. And we prefer those houses with the other options because those are usually the ones that have the higher upside, right? We could do this or we could do that.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's something.
Let me add to that, Will, real quick. And it is a little bit more of an advanced mindset as an investor, right? Because you don't understand all the exit strategies when you're first starting out. However, you should be getting good at 1, 2 of them, such as wholesaling, such as flipping. And then once you're good at that and you're profitable, then you have the option, you have the choice, almost, and also the expertise to be able to lock up deals and know, hey, we might be able to do this, we might be able to do that. But regardless, it's going to work out on one of those strategies. So I don't want that to get lost at. It is a little bit more advanced, but it's something to strive for, because as an investor, like, one thing I respect so much about Garri is that I've been following him for some time, but just his evolution is you see it. It's like first doing this and then doing that. And now, last time I was in LA, I walked his amazing project in Sherman Oaks that he's building basically a custom home in a fantastic neighborhood. And that is, I know that's, another step for him, right? Another evolution as an investor. He's adding to his investor's tool belt. And it's a very profitable deal. It's actually gotten me to think about doing a similar deal potentially with him on something like that, because I just like, I'm also in love with those bigger deals like Garri as well. Like I'm not trying to do deals to make, 10, 20 grand. I mean, that's not going to change my life, but something that makes $500,000 or 300,000. Yeah, that'll move the puck forward a lot. So good for you, Garri. I love that about you, bro. You
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. That Sherman Oaks is like, I think we're gonna make like maybe 600 grand on that deal. And for those of you that are watching, I have no background on construction. Don't ever have that having no knowledge stopping you from doing deals. Find the people, get in the mix, get in the game, play the game. Don't be a spectator. Right, you got to get in the game. You got to play.
Sure.
Huge. Garri, do you buy real estate now or do you wait to buy?
I always buy, man. Always buy.
So tell me now, Garri, I know you're, like Alex pointed out, your, investing strategy, right? It's kind of evolved over time and you've been able to add to the tool belt. But when you started off, again, your first property, you're looking up online. I love what you mentioned on that, which was you knew your market, you knew your neighborhood, you knew your area. Would you say that was kind of some of the strengths that helped you out with your strategy when you kind of started investing, was just knowing where you were?
Well, the only thing I knew is I was in California. I was in LA. as far as every specific area, I didn't know, right? I didn't know like Whittier. I didn't know Downey. Because that's not where I'm from. I live in Burbank. I live in Glendale. But what I do know is common sense. If something's selling in the area for a lot higher than what you're buying it for, you don't need to know the area. You just know it's a good deal. There are some nuances where you got to be careful. And if I could throw a few nuggets out there, I will. Like, for example, there's a city called Arcadia. We have bought a house in Arcadia. It was in the city of Arcadia. However, it didn't get into the Arcadia school district. It was in the Monrovia school district. So when we were comping it, literally a house next block over was selling for a lot more because they were in the Arcadia school district. We weren't. Even though it was Arcadia, it was in the Monrovia school district. So when you are comping your houses, make sure the school districts match and the schools match, even though within a quarter-mile radius.
One block over, maybe it's a different school district, even though it might look like it's in the same area. That's a huge tip there. And, I think Debbie just kind of commented in there. That is a really big tip. And it can go with school districts and even just streets, right? One side of the train tracks versus the other. I know I've looked at a couple deals and Alex has called me out because he said, hey, Will, you're comping that house and it's in Pomona. And this house that we're looking at is actually over in El Monte. And so even though you're right on the border, when you cross that one street, you're now no longer in the same area, and those areas don't have the same values, right?
Yeah. But a lot of this stuff, like having people like Alex, like you will, you just get to learn, you get to see. When you are comping your houses, sometimes you'll get deals from other wholesalers, and they'll go like out 2 mile radius or even a mile radius. They'll show you some high comps. Just be careful. The best deals you're gonna get is direct. And if you're getting a wholesale deal given to you, just make sure you're extra careful because you can't mess up. I've done a lot of flips. I've never lost money on one deal. We pretty much broke even. Um, and that was timing. It was during COVID. Literally, I was in escrow for 1.5 million. We were gonna sell the house. COVID happened. All this stuff happened. The buyer backed out. I ended up selling the house for 1.26 million. So it was a big drop. However, we bought it at a lower price, so I broke even. Timing changed. The guy that bought it fixed it. He flipped it for $2 million. Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy how that works out sometimes, right?
But you know what? It was fine because during that time I ended up buying the house in Palm Springs. So all good, man.
So Garri, I want to ask a question here real quick, kind of off topic, but we're having a couple questions come in the chat. And Allison is wondering if you do any creative financing deals. And Daryl is wondering just in general how you're funding all these deals. So is it hard money? Is it investors, private money, creative deals? Like how are you able to buy these $1 million properties and flip these all kind of concurrently, right?
I have a rich dad. My father's rich. My father in heaven is rich.
So the Lord is passing you down all of his blessings, right?
I mean, I'm not taking this lightly, but I don't know, man. I just get deals come to me. I'll find ways. I have people, obviously I build relationships with. I just bought a house in Burbank, 780,000, no money out of pocket, full 100% financing, plus no payments for 12 months. It's not me. It's literally God just bringing the right people in my life.
And also I think it's just you getting the deals, right? So we kind of always talk about this, right, Alex? There's a couple of different roles you can play. You can play the money guy, you can play the guy that does the contracting, or you can do the deal finding. And I think, what you're kind of proving here, Garri, is that, look, if you find the deal, there's going to be a contractor that wants to work on it. We can guarantee it. And if you find that deal, the money, there's going to be somebody with money that, even in your first deal, right? You found a deal, you called a couple of people and they were like, wow, 400K, homes are going for 6. Like, yeah, this is a screaming deal. Let's put some money down. So I love that you kind of, mentioned that it's not any one given way, right? It's, hey, when the deal comes, we'll find a partner that makes sense to kind of take that thing to the finish line.
Yeah. And what Garri is saying, and to echo what he's saying is he's a man of faith, and he has faith that, that it's going to happen. It's going to work out. But that doesn't mean he's not putting in the work, or doesn't mean that he's not, building the right relationships. But when you have that strong, moral compass, as I like to say, when you have that a very high character that, the strong faith gives you, then that eventually the right people are going to be put in your path to make things happen. So
my mentor used to say, God doesn't oppose effort, right? We have to put in the effort, and God will bless us if we're walking in His will. Not to get into a thing about that, but one lender that's really helped me out, and if you guys are watching, I always talk about this. Lending Home. Lending Home has literally changed our business. Like, they 10x our business because of leverage, ultimate leverage. Like, I can't even explain to you guys how much leverage we have with Lending Home. So that's a good source to.
And real quick, I want you to dive into that. So when you say leverage is how you're able to leverage their money to work on deals, right? So while your portfolio grows, the amount of money that you're putting in is still, hey, zero down, zero down, zero down. So when you started with Lending Home, what did that look like, and how has your relationship with them kind of evolved?
Yeah, so in the beginning, we were just, let me go back. Let me tell you how Lending Home started. I used to use a local lender, Dennis Rediger. I don't know if you know him, Alex. Rediger Investments, you know him?
No, I don't actually.
In Burbank? Okay. So I used to, okay, this is a good segue. So I before I got started, I was reverse engineering deals. I would go on title, I would see what something sold, I would put up title, I would see who the lenders are, right? And I would call up the lenders, hey, I'm interested in buying a house, can you guys lend money to me? And they would tell me, all right, cool, here's our terms, this is what we charge, blah, 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 blah. No problem. So Dennis Rediger was a lender that would come up often. I'm like, man, let me call this guy. His office is in Burbank. Hit him up, went to meet him. He's like, yeah, I'll lend for you. If you put, I think it was like 15% down, I'll charge you 1 point, 10% rate, no prepaid. You'll have the money in a few days. I'm like, all right, let's do it. At that time, I had some money saved up. Sergio had money as well. We did a couple of deals, and then we started growing. Then it came to a point where, like, obviously we don't have all the money in the world. We have to bring in some outside investors. So we would leverage our contact with the hard money lender with our outside investors. They would put up the money for the down payment, the construction cost. We would do a split with them, and we would literally put no money out of pocket. That's how we were getting these 100% deals. Then I got to a point where I was starting getting mail of other lenders. They were sending me mail to my house. Hey, we could do this for you. We could do that for you. And then out of random, I get a call from Lending Home. Hey, we want to earn your business. We see that you're doing a lot of deals. What can we do? I told them what I get. They said, look, this is what we'll offer you. We'll offer you, if you put 10% down, we'll offer you a 7.95 interest rate, and we'll charge you half a point. I said, if you'll do that, you'll get all my business. They made some calls. They did it for us. A few months later, we're doing a lot of business. They flew us out to San Francisco. I met their CEO. It was a good contact.
And guys, I just want to point that out because while Garri uses Lending Home, Alex and I use Certain Lending. And the reason there is very similar to why Garri uses Lending Home is because Alex flies out on multiple occasions and has gotten to meet with the CEO of Certain Lending. And so that relationship developing has allowed us to secure better financing, better terms, better options. And I'm sure just like with you, Garri, by developing that relationship, that has really allowed you to accelerate your business as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna add something to that, you guys. That it goes back to the same thing, which is action taking and relationships. I wouldn't have been able to build this relationship with that CEO without first having some form of track record and taking massive action to get that seat at that table. And same thing with Garri. They didn't approach him, when he was doing 2-3 deals, but once he had proven the track record, and gotten people paid and all that, and they saw this is somebody that's worth them, building a relationship with Garri. You see how that works out, but you're never going to get there if you don't take a lot of action and then also focus and prioritize long-term business relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like going to a restaurant, right? Let's say you go to a nice steakhouse. You go there first time, you don't know anyone. You see a waiter, you talk to her. But if you start showing up every week, they know your name now. If you start showing up almost every day, they'll know you like, oh, that's Gary, that's Alex, that's Will. Here's the owner, here's the manager. Man, you still want that special? Yeah, bring it over. Sometimes they'll even comp you some meals, right? It's like getting to know people on like Alex, like you said, just on a deeper relationship.
Yeah.
And it does happen because, the CEO has now connected us with other various people in his business, and just that connection where it's like, hey, this is Alex, he's my guy, take care of whatever he needs. That right there is what that waiter is saying. Is he's saying, hey, that's Gary, that's Alex, that's Will. Those are the guys that are here every day. Let's take care of them. Let's make sure that we keep getting their business, right? So I love that you brought that up, Gary, because it is a give and take, right? You have to bring something to the table as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. You can't build relationships off of like no work. Like, what if you got nothing to bring to the table? How could you expect to anybody want to work with you? Like, you're gonna. So
unless you're a SOB, right? Son of the boss.
Awesome, love it.
So yeah, again, I think that's great because two different companies, but still the same alignment and same way to kind of get there. So. I'd love to say that that's, probably a good portion of it, but Gary, how are you getting so many deals out here in LA? Like, is it strictly your relationships with LA realtors? Is it wholesalers? Is it MLS, direct to seller marketing? Like, what is it that you guys are doing and doing so successfully?
A little bit of everything, man. It's like going fishing, right? If you only have one rod in the water, you're only going to catch one fish. If you have multiple rods, you might catch a few fish. And that multiple rods could be like the relationships I've built, my social media, the contacts I have, the guys that work with us, my circle of group of friends that work with us. It's just a combination of everything. It's not one particular thing. It's just one day I might get a deal from Larry, another time I might get a deal from Joe or whoever, and it just starts piling up. The one thing you have in this business, one thing you have is your word. If you don't commit and you don't do what you're going to say you're going to do, you're done. Especially in relationships. The moment I told Larry we're in, he's like, you know what he told me, Alex? He told me, my list of investors is very small. He said, I'm going to give you one chance. There's the deal in Downey. I said, all right, I'm in. We ended up buying it. Another one bought. I never told him yes, and we didn't close. It's always been yes. We've made money. Then you got to grease those wheels. You got to give them deals because you can't just be always taking, right? So I give them deals, random deals that they didn't even expect. So that's key right there, big time. Your word, keep your word.
Big time.
I love that because, again, at the end of the day, if you go back on your word, now that guy's going to be twice as more willing to say, hey, Gary is not the guy you want to do business with.
Exactly.
Yes. So you almost make twice as many detractors as you do attractors if you don't keep to your word. So I think that's huge. Again, because you've been able to keep that word so many times, people are just coming back and back to you because they know you perform on your word over and over again, right?
Yep.
So you mentioned your team and people kind of knowing, that your team is there. Can you break down your team a little bit for us? Like, who is your kind of core team that's helping you do these deals and these transactions?
So I keep my team small, man. We used to have like a bunch of people that worked with us, and they would come and they were just, taking and then going on their own, and it just ended up being like a cycle where I don't want to do that. So we changed it up a little bit. Now, it's a little different, and I think I mentioned this to you, Alex. I have mentors, like mentees that pay to play. They become a student. They come in, we teach them what we know. We partner up with them. They get a percentage off the flip. Now I know they're committed, right? Now I know they have skin in the game. They paid money. Now I want to work with them even more. And if they're willing to leave at that point, I'm okay with that because I already know, like, this guy committed. He paid money. He paid his dues. He wants to leave. Great, let him leave. But most people end up sticking around with us because they're making money off the flips. They're making money off the real estate. I encourage every guy that works with us, go get your license because you're leaving money on the table if you're not licensed, I believe, especially here in California with our price is so high, right? It's like almost like flipping a house. If you sell $1 million house, $25,000 commission, it's not bad. And not every house you're gonna end up buying. We know that. We all know that. So my team is small, bro. I don't have that many people. I have maybe like 6 people, 5, 6 people.
And with those 6 people, there's you, there's Sergio. What do the kind of roles look like beneath that?
Yeah, so it's me, Sergio. We have one of our guys, Hal. We have Oscar, and then we're like 3 or 4 guys underneath them. Oscar and Hal are kind of like the go-to. Well, Hal is like the manager. Oscar is like kind of second in place, and then there's people that are, I don't even want to say underneath them. We're all equal because anyone gets a deal. They eat equally, and it's like I don't have like a disposition guy because we don't do wholesale. We flip a lot. Actually, we flip. I've never wholesaled anything. We buy everything. We'll sell it as is, but I'll never wholesale. It just, those deals take way too much to get, and it costs a lot of money to get sometimes, and we just don't want to leave money on the table.
Love that. And it's the same business model for Alex and I. We don't really wholesale much because we're actually going after the properties that we want. So when we get them, why would we get rid of it? It's we've been going after this whole time.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take this thing down, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So Garri, I got one last question for you here before we, kind of do what we normally do and end the meeting, and we'll kind of invite all of the attendees on to just kind of hang out with us for the last couple of minutes here. But one, kind of final question for you would just be, what is the largest, challenge that you have right now in this COVID market? Like, what are you struggling with, or what do you kind of see as your biggest challenge to get through this month and next month to continue your business on?
I mean, this sounds kind of dumb, but I don't see any challenges at all. I actually see a lot of opportunities, to be honest with you.
Dude,
challenging.
yeah, that's how I feel too, bro. For real. I mean, there's like challenges, but it's not like,
no, man. It's like a kid walking in the candy store and you're the only one in there. Before you would walk in, it was like hundreds of people in there. Like, damn, there's 20 people in here. But now he's like, so you and a few other people maybe. Absolutely no challenges. It's a beautiful market. Actually, this COVID thing, what it did is a lot of overnight investors, I call them, they got out of the business real quick.
A lot of the people that couldn't hang, that didn't have the systems in place, that didn't have the ability to kind of withstand that, kind of fell off, right?
They didn't have the mindset. The mindset they didn't have, and that's why they fell off. This COVID exposed mindset.
Houses to buy, right?
COVID exposed mindset. That's what it did.
So let's go ahead and welcome some folks onto the screen here. And in the meantime, I know you've kind of told us a little bit about this project you have up in Sherman Oaks, but do you have a deal that you maybe want to kind of review with us real quick and just kind of do a quick and dirty on, hey, where you sourced the deal from, maybe a challenge or two that you had on it, and how you kind of got it to the finish line?
Sherman Oaks might be a little advanced, just because there's just a lot of moving parts there. And I don't want to confuse the people. I don't know what kind of audience you guys have, but I could talk about a new deal that we got in Rialto. It's kind of like in the ballpark. So we bought this house, and I posted on my Instagram. We bought this house, I think like 2 months ago, 2-3 months ago. We bought it for $325. It was a pre-foreclosure. The guy was losing the house, so we reached out to him, and we ended up. The reason we bought the house is, at that time, comps were like 460, pushing it, like really pushing it. So our goal was possibly wholesaling it. I posted on my Instagram. I had a guy that said, "Hey man, I'll pay you, $360 for it. I think $365. We're gonna make maybe like 30 grand on it, if that." Sergio said, "Hey man, I think there's more potential here. We could always sell it as is. Why don't we just close on it? Because we promised the seller that we're gonna close. Why don't we close on it and then we'll figure it out later?" I said, "All right, yeah, you're right. Let's do that, because we've never wholesale. We wanted to stick to our word. We closed on the deal, $325. We started fixing the house. I made a mistake. Here's the mistake I made. And it's okay to make mistakes when you're buying a good deal, right? If you're buying a good deal, it's okay to make mistakes. The mistake I made, I hired there's a lot of guys joining. Hi, everyone. So the mistake I made was I hired our painter to finish the house, to do the entire remodel, right? Our painter ended up really screwing us over, and not that he intentionally screwed us over, just that's not his expertise, right? You can't hire a basketball coach to coach you baseball, right? So we hired the wrong guy. We thought he knew what he was doing, and that time that he said he'll be done, he said, "Oh, I'll get it done in 3 weeks." That took like 2 months. So I had to take the guys out of my Palm Springs project and put them on our Rialto project. Obviously, the market benefited us, prices went up. So we listed this thing for $499. At the time we bought it, house was worth $460. That was pushing it. We gave that listing to Larry, talking about relationships, right? Out of nowhere, he got a deal. I said, "Larry, what do you think we could list it for?" He looked at the comps. He said $499. I jumped out of my seat. I was like, "Are you serious? $499?" He's like, "Yeah, I think we can get $499." All right, cool, list it. We listed it. I asked him, "How much are you going to charge me?" He gave me a price. I said, "All right, no problem. I'm good. I'm good with that." You gotta allow people to make money with you. So I gave him the listing, put it on the market within like 5-6 days. We had like 7-8 offers. We accepted an offer for $520,000. We're in escrow today. $520,000. That's probably gonna make us, I don't know, maybe after everything's said and done, maybe like 80 grand. We were okay making 30, but now we're gonna make 80 on this deal. So it was the typical flip, right? Cookie cutter flip, paint, carpet. You put new flooring, new kitchen, no bathrooms we didn't change. We just put new. Everyone's joining. Hi everyone. Bathrooms we didn't change. We kept the bathrooms. That was a cool deal, man. I really enjoyed that deal.
So I think again, with that deal, you had a couple of moving parts. Some things kind of fell apart. You obviously learned, hey, don't pay the painter to chop the wood, right? There's a difference of labor there. But I think the big thing that I took from that was because you bought it right, you were able to make mistakes. It's not that you wanted to make mistakes, but because you bought it at such a good deal, you had that cushion. And so I just wanted to kind of point that out because I think that's important, that it wasn't that you wanted to make the mistakes, but it was, hey, I had enough margin that I could do that. And Alex, we had that on our deal, right? The first deal that I ever got, we had a little bit of an issue with the project management, a little bit of an issue with the contractors, a couple of moving pieces, but we still ended up profitable because we bought it at such a good price.
Yeah, and also I want to say that it doesn't matter. I mean, Garri has flipped over 350, like hundreds of houses, yet even somebody at that level can still make a mistake. So none of us are perfect, guys. Just take the action, do the deals. You learn from everyone. But yeah, if you buy it, that's why they say you make money when you buy, not when you sell. Because if you buy it right, and it's unlikely for you to lose money. But what an awesome webinar, Garri. Thank you for sharing all your tips and tricks. And before we leave, make sure that you guys follow Garri, that you guys have his information. He's on. How do people find you, Garri, if they have any more follow-up questions, brother?
It's Instagram. So it's my first name _ my last name. Can I share one more story?
Yeah.
So there's a guy in your audience, Matt. Where is he? Matt. There he is. Where's Matt? You guys know about the story with Matt?
I don't think so.
I want to hear it now, though.
Let's go.
So when I had my Lambo, I did a contest. Matt was one of the winners. And man of God, just awesome guy. We kept a real good relationship. He worked with us. We're trying to get deals. Just nothing was penciling out. Right, Matt? Nothing was really penciling out. It's going back and forth. And damn, it's been a couple of years now, right? It's been a few years.
Almost two,
yeah. he hits me up maybe a month or two ago, and he says, "Hey, my wife got this job. They're going to Washington. My mother-in-law has a house in Diamond Bar. You know, we want to sell it, and we want you to buy it." I'm like, "Absolutely, we'll buy it." Long story short, we ended up buying it. Matt's actually a partner with us on that deal. We ended up buying the house. 507, right?
Yeah.
We're probably halfway done now. Comps have gone up. That thing is worth, how much would you say, Matt? How much is it worth now?
I think the comps we saw recently was like 740, roughly between 740 and 760.
Yeah.
For,
we bought this for 507. We're spending, I think, like 70 grand into it. So it's going to be a nice profit. Nice big profit. So the reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because you never know who you meet on social media. Treat everyone with kindness. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated. You never know, that one phone call, that one person you might meet might change your life. And it definitely has for me as well. I appreciate you, Matt. You're a good guy, man.
Thank you, Garri.
And I think from what you made it sound like, it probably is changing Matt's life as well. So I mean, like you said, it's not a one-way street, right? It's a two-way street. And so, hey, Matt, I got a question for you, man. Do you have anything else?
Hey, Will, back off, man. Matt's my guy.
Oh, God.
Social media is huge, guys. Like, that's how I met Garri, and I don't know, we did nothing popped off right away, and that's kind of on my end. I'm still learning, you know. My background is I'm a paramedic, and never done anything like this before, trying to get into this world, and it's not easy, as all of you guys know, I'm sure. I struggle with the mindset still kind of working on developing that, but Garri's a pretty humble guy, as you guys can tell already, and he's legit, and yeah, he's patient too. So even though I haven't been quick out of the gates to bring a deal to him yet, just because he's been genuine this whole time, it was a no-brainer to take him that deal when it happened, pretty much. So when I came across it, but yeah.
Awesome.
Guys, again, I'm really thankful that we had such a legendary conversation here today. You know, again, Garri is absolutely crushing it out here in Los Angeles, and not just taking down small deals, but deals of all, you know, shapes and sizes. So hopefully everybody's able to connect. I know everybody's kind of putting their Instagram handles over in the chat, and I just put the Facebook group in there again one more time. So guys, please do join the Facebook group. You know, we continue the conversation weekly in the Facebook group. It's not just Wednesday here, but if you have questions, if you need help, people are able to kind of connect throughout the week on that Facebook group. So we'd love to see you guys in there. And as always, we can't wait to see you guys next week. We'll bring some more fire. And we did make a post in the Facebook group, guys. If you're new and you need help with something, please go find the post. Alex made it. And we were just kind of asking what you guys need help with. So, you know, we had some feedback that people needed help with deals here in LA. We brought on the maestro, the mega investor, Garri, to kind of give us some insight. And again, you let us know what you guys need help with, and we'll keep on kind of bringing it out and helping out as we can.
I respect you guys. Always giving. You guys are definitely amazing individuals. So I appreciate you guys.
Thanks for coming on, Garri. And vibe of the tribe, as we say, you guys. Keep out there taking action, and let us know if you need anything. Let's get it.
Let's go, you guys. We'll catch you on the flip side, all right?
Take care.